MMA Roadshow, episode number 554. My name is John Morgan, and Cold Coffee is with me, albeit from opposite sides of the country. I am in Philadelphia, PA right now for CFFC 148. Meanwhile, Cold Coffee is back home in beautiful Las Vegas. He'll be covering the UFC this weekend, and we'll talk about the UFC coverage that he has already put in this weekend, which he did pretty much all by himself. But we'll get into that a little bit first. Can I just say, and you know me, I'm a humble guy, Cold Coffee. I don't like to brag too much or be that guy, but I will say, I do believe I'm having one of the most interesting weeks a person on earth, or at least in the line of business that we are or whatever, can have. I have gone from lingerie fighting championships to the United States National Beauty Pageant to now, of course, CFFC. And you have been along for some of the ride. We'll get into all of it. We'll get into all of it. But how are you doing? But before I start, like I said,
that's a nice humble brag right there. That's not too bad.
Well, I was gonna say you got
half naked ladies at the beginning in the lingerie fighting, then you got well dressed ladies, and then you're gonna have half naked dudes fighting here at the end of the week. So you got it all going on.
I mean,
brother.
It's not the way I would necessarily lay it out there, but I appreciate you, sir. I appreciate. Well, all right. So let's just look. You and I don't talk a lot about lingerie fighting championships, right? And there's different reasons for that. For a long time, of course, I was employed by MMA Junkie and Gannett and USA Today, and I wasn't sure if they necessarily would love the fact that was something that we did on the side or whatever, so I didn't really talk about it that much. Then, I'll be honest with you, there was a big part of me that was always like, man, I hope there's people in the industry that don't think that, like, come on, man, what are you doing? That's not. But I feel like now the worlds of entertainment, pro wrestling, just all this kind of extraneous, wild stuff in combat sports. I think it's all kind of come together and it's more acceptable. And so now I'm just going to embrace it a little bit more. We had a good time, man. I mean, it was Friday night, Lingerie Fighting Championships in Las Vegas. You and I were on the call, as we are always on the call. We are. Yep. We are by the way, every now and then.
We are the U.S. based team.
We are.
There's a UK team that's trying to weasel in there a little bit.
No,
but we are the U.S. based.
We are the U.S. based team,
and the number one.
And Cold Coffee, I will imagine that you were probably like me, in that every now and then somebody will reach out to you and be like, "Dude, this sounds just like you," and I'm like, "That's because it's me." You know what I mean?
It is.
That's because and it's always funny because I realize, like, well, you can't talk trash about me because you were watching it and you obviously enjoyed it. So, but anyway, it was fun.
Yep.
This was actually a pretty fun night because you and I were set to do this, and it was originally supposed to be at like a local club in Las Vegas, but because of some, I think like some licensing issues or some permit issues or something like that, last second it got changed to a different venue, like on a week's notice. So, by the way, credit to everybody at Lingerie Fighting Championships for moving a venue in the course of like 5 days, which is not easy. But it ended up at the Fight Capital Gym, which for many people that are maybe old school MMA fans, used to be the old school JSEC gym. So, I mean, that was like the birthplace of mixed martial arts in Las Vegas, in Nevada. They were the first MMA gym there. That's literally where the Fertittas and Dana White and all that used to train under John Lewis, and we were there in that gym. And of course, there was just a little bit of MMA, a little bit of wrestling, a little bit of clothing, as they do at Lingerie Fighting Championships. But it was cool to be in such a like classic, old school, historic kind of venue.
Yeah, I'd been driving past that place since I lived not far from there for years and didn't even realize that that's where that gym was. So to be able to go in there and see it was actually really, really cool. And it definitely had that old school, like, boxing gym, fight gym feel. I didn't go upstairs to see what was upstairs, but just seeing the layout downstairs was pretty cool. But yeah, credit to them for pulling it together. Normally we do it down at the FSW, where we were talking about the professional wrestling, which the FSW arena, where they do a bunch of like pro wrestling stuff out of there, is actually really cool.
I like that venue too.
And so I was kind of sad that we didn't get to go there and do it at that venue because we've done it so many times at that venue. But it was neat to actually get into the Fight Capital gym, and there were new ladies wrestling and fighting that evening, and I thought it was just incredible. It was fun with just all the different outfits since it was Halloween. But the action was fun. Yeah, man, I had a great time.
I had a
really, really good time. I mean, and it's just unique stuff. I mean, like, I was talking to somebody the other day. There opportunities sometimes pop up to relocate to other areas, but I've always said that it'd be really tough to kind of make me want to leave Las Vegas, besides of just the weather, which I love, but just the opportunities and some of these things. And one of the things is just these weird little sort of instances we've built for ourselves out here, and one of them is Lingerie Fighting Championship. I absolutely adore the organization. It's fun. The women are fun. It's such a good time calling the show with you, and it's just a lot of fun. So I'm definitely grateful. And so yeah, it was a nice way of spending Halloween. I was a little bummed I didn't get to put out candy, because I do actually enjoy giving out candy. I think it's one of those traditions that it's just kind of, I want that to exist for young kids these days, because it was a big thing of us growing up. So I tried to do it. So when I wasn't able to do it, I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. But boy, I wouldn't trade it for if I had to be doing something else. I think watching some scantily clad women throwing punches and scissor kicks and all kinds of other stuff. And bro, the level of competition has gotten
big.
Exponentially. They are really doing some work.
I was going to say,
it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
I mean, we have literally been doing this thing. So I started a little bit before you.
Yeah, you started almost years before me.
Yeah,
I think.
and so I saw it literally from the inception. And again, because I was in Las Vegas, you talk about these weird things that happen and these little opportunities or whatever. And so I got to see it from the beginning. And where they have grown, it is pretty incredible, the level of athletes that they have now doing it. And, I mean, not for us because we're just humble little employees over there, but it sounds like big things are happening. It sounds like there's a lot of cool things happening. So, man, you might.
Seems like it. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. You might see some big things about that. So that was fun. So that was my Friday night. And then I guess it builds on the theme of exactly what you said, of these odd little opportunities that pop up sometimes that you never expected in your life. And that was, I got a chance to MC the United States National Beauty Pageant, which was in Las Vegas as well. It's the first year in a couple years that they had been at Las Vegas. And I got to be honest with you, bro, I might have been more nervous for that than anything I ever do. Because, like, anything martial arts related or combat sports related, like, I feel like, hey, man, throw me a curveball, tell me what you need me to do, how much you need me to talk, what do you want me to talk about, what are we doing next? I'm like, whatever. Here, this is a world that I literally know nothing about. But what happened was, Jason Lederfine, who I work with at CFFC, he's our COO, and sometimes you will see him as an MC as well. He does a lot of stuff behind the scenes, but every now and then you'll see him do some cage announcing as well, depending on our venue and availabilities and that sort of thing. So if you know the name Jason Lederfine from watching CFFC, that's why you might know him, but he does a ton of stuff behind the scenes. But last year, they were in Memphis, and he had been with them in Memphis. This year, they were moving to Las Vegas, and he was unavailable because he had something going on. They were going to fly him out, but he had another commitment already, and he said, well, you're in luck. I can't go, but I got a guy. He's my colleague. I work with him. He lives in Las Vegas. He can fill in for me, and I know him. He'll do a fine job. And so they reached out to me. Obviously he gave me a heads up or whatever, and then they reached out to me, and they said, what do you think? And I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, let's give it a shot. But, bro, I'm not going to lie. Nervous as hell. It was one day of rehearsals, which I was even nervous for the rehearsals, and then 2 days of actually commentating or emceeing, not commentating. There you go. It's not even my world. I don't MC anything. I'm a commentator. It had me nervous because bottom line is, I feel like with combat sports, I can just kind of riff and make stuff up, and I mean not make stuff up, but you know what I mean. I could just flow. And there, I was like, if I get this wrong, I won't even know, and they're gonna be like laughing at me. I don't know, but it was fun. It was a hell of a lot of fun, though. Hell of a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
that's awesome. What a unique opportunity, And now that you've done that, now you're probably just getting groomed for Miss America and the Miss Universe.
Bring it on.
Next steps.
Bring it on. I'll tell you what's funny though. I went there for rehearsals. On Sunday. and I was walking around with the team and just kind of getting the lay of the land, et cetera, et cetera. The first person I ran into, the first contestant that I ran into, this was amazing. Small world. Her name is Kayla Duncan. She was competing. She was Miss California, United States. But she's also a ring card girl for LFA. She works with She works with the Camo, which is the amateur organization out in California. She does some content creation in the world of mixed martial arts. So literally, the first person I ran into, she was like, "John Morgan, what are you doing here?" And I'm like, "I'm working." She's like, "This is such a pleasure to meet you." And I'm like, "Is this like a plant? Like, what do they? How does this contestant know who I am?" But sure, super nice. Like I said, Kayla Duncan. Follow her on Instagram. Super incredible girl. She was very nice. She one of the things they do at the pageant is, obviously you do the swimsuit, you do the evening gown, but then you talk about like your platform and like what kind of community project that you're doing. And her community project was combat sports related. It was basically like getting women to come train in martial arts for obviously the self-defense aspect of it, the confidence aspect of it, all that. But her platform was combat sports related as well. And so I don't know, it was cool. I was like, what a small world. What a small world this is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. So,
how cool is that?
It was fun, man. It was fun. So that was unique. So from lingerie fighting championships on Friday to the United States National Beauty Pageant Sunday through Tuesday, finished on Tuesday. Went home, finished packing, talked to my family for a few minutes, and then went straight to the airport. Took the red eye out here to Philadelphia for CFFC 148. Got a chance to go to Marquez MMA for the first time. So, we talk about it. Like obviously back in the day when I was just doing commentary for CFFC, I'd kind of fly in like last second, and because you're trying to save on hotel rooms, you don't really you don't really have a job function to do until, so I would kind of fly in on weigh-in day, go to the weigh-ins, do the fights, fly in. But now that I'm on the administrative side, I come in and kind of help the whole team and everything. But all the trips that we've done out here to Philadelphia, I've never been to Marquez MMA, and I finally got to do that this week. And man, cool spot. I know it's a gym that a lot of people talk about, and we've got a lot of their fighters on our card this week, but got a chance to go see it. It is super cool. John Marquez, I feel like, is getting a lot of respect, and deservedly so. Kind of getting his name in the spotlight a little bit, which is cool to see. Not quite up on the gym of the year type category just yet, but still, like, I think a lot of people are starting to talk about it. But bro, it is cool. It's proper old school Philly gym. Like you got two choices. So it's how would you describe the neighborhood? Like a tad unsavory, perhaps you would say. It's not the greatest neighborhood of all. And then when you get to the building, you have two choices. You have either it's either a four floor walk up, or you jump in a freight elevator, and it's like one of those elevators where like you got to pull the doors down, and there's not like buttons where you hit what floor. There's just like a switch on the side where you just like hit up and you go up until you get the door, and then you pull. So it's a cool gym, raw. It's not the you and I have been so fortunate. We've been to the American top teams. We've been down to Sanford, or all the different iterations of that. Kill Cliff now, of course, it's called. We've obviously even in town, and we've seen the different versions of Syndicate. We've seen Extreme Couture has been pretty much a constant, but they've expanded. We've been we've been to all the gyms, but this is one that I hadn't been to, and it's like old school, kind of dingy, kind of. But I like that. It's like it feels just like a proper old school fight gym. It was fun, and I will tell you this: the first, obviously, you're working out, you got some music on in the background. The first song, this is no bullshit. The first song that was playing when we walked in was the Rocky theme in Philadelphia, and I'm like, is this coincidence, or do they just have this on loop like nonstop? Like you're in Philly, you just got to have that, all that. So anyway, it was a good time. So it's been a fun week. By the way,
that's cool.
It was super cool.
And the people, I just looked it up on their thing, and if people are interested, it's located at 4500 Worth Street.
Yes, it is.
Philadelphia, PA 19124. Yeah, I just pulled them up. Yeah, I was trying to look at the neighborhood, but I'm looking at the satellite thing, the satellite picture, and yeah, it looks like where you would see Rocky's gym.
Oh.
If he was in the middle of Philly next to the used auto car dealer, and it's pretty cool.
It's cool, man. And like I said, John Marquez is a great dude. It was just so when we walked in, it was just a regular practice. Like, it wasn't pro practice because they do pro practice during the day. But it was just kind of a regular practice. There had to be, I don't know, 80 people on the mat, maybe more. Huge class. But some pros.
Did you walk in, they were just like, holy cow, is that John Morgan?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. They were actually probably John Marquez wouldn't let them look if they were. Obviously, they don't care who I am, but even if they were, John Marquez is like a drill sergeant out there, bro. He's not letting you chill. He's like, you're working. But it was cool. So it wasn't pro practice, but there were a couple pros, including some of the guys that are going to be on our card that were getting some work in. And Sean Brady was there, actually. So I got to see some of Sean Brady's last workouts ahead of his big fight next week. And, bro, Sean Brady, he was looking good. He was looking really, really good. So keep an eye out for that. Yeah, he looked really, really good. But I did want to say this, because I've seen this before. I had seen it before I've been there. But John Gooden did a really good piece on Fight Pass on the gym. It's called Sean Brady and Marquez MMA Up Close with John Gooden. It's on Fight Pass, but I was Googling it last night because I wanted to see if there's a way. For some reason you don't have Fight Pass, which, come on, what are you doing? You need to have Fight Pass. But for some reason you don't. They have posted it on YouTube as well. So if you don't have it, you can watch it. But so check it out. If you want to see the gym and the people and all, and it's cool because John Gooden has Paul Felder kind of driving him around and narrating the whole thing and all that. It's a really good piece. So I just recommend it to anybody. Sean Brady and Marquez MMA Up Close with John Gooden. So anyway,
that's cool. So would you say it was a good one?
Oh, I see what you did there. It was a good one. It was a good one. I like that. Well, see, surely somebody has given him that suggestion before.
I don't know, but I do remember him talking about how he was when I saw him last time. I was asking him, if he was staying busy, and he was mentioning some of the stuff that he was doing for UFC Fight Pass and stuff. So that's cool. That's cool to see that coming to fruition. He's such a good dude, and he takes it very, very seriously. He's definitely a big fan of the sport and does his work. So I'm sure it's a really, really good product.
Now,
so I'll have to definitely check it out.
So I did talk to John, by the way. I wanted to find out how old that piece was, when it was done. He said it was just the summer, so it's not that bad. It's just over the summer. But I was wondering, if it's 5 or 6 months ago, would you call that an old 'un but a good 'un? Oh boy!
I like it.
It's late here. It's late here on the East Coast. It's late here on the East Coast. The humor's getting bad here at this time. So anyway, that's been my week. I want to talk about your week in a moment, but before we do, I guess really the biggest news coming out of this. It's not. I guess the biggest news. It is the biggest news. Is this UFC MMA betting scandal. And obviously you and I haven't had a chance to talk because really, honestly, I haven't had a chance to talk to you since Friday night. I've been so slammed. We were both at the event on Saturday. I'll be honest with you, when I got done seeing the fight with Dogarian and Dovaya, I was just like, man, Dovaya looks like, and honestly, even if this was what everybody says it was, I still don't know that I'm taking away from Dovaya and saying that he's that dude looks like the real deal to me moving forward, right? But obviously everybody's talking about Dogarian and this thing. And I don't know. I've been talking to some people, and obviously this is a story that kind of extends back to James Krause and that betting scandal that never really got fully resolved. But I'm curious what your take is because I'll be honest, from my point of view, I will say I think this is a terrible thing. It's a terrible, terrible, bad thing. It's not good for the sport at all. But I also do believe a lot of people are making a lot more out of this than I think it actually is, at least in terms of how widespread it is. In terms of the impact, in terms of how bad this is, I don't think they are. I think this you can't make up or you can't emphasize how bad this is. Should it be true? Now again, innocent until proven guilty. We'll give them the thing. But if all this is true, it's bad. But I'm seeing a lot of information out there that seems to be talking about just how rampant and widespread this is and how, this is just, it has its fingers in all edge of the sport and all that. And I'll be honest with you, I don't feel that way. And I do want to say this, and I think over the years, especially anybody that listens to this knows, I'm not a conspiracy theory guy. I'm not a big extended theory guy. I'm usually like, whatever the simplest answer is, it's usually that's it, right? But I will say, when I went back and watched the fight, now again, I saw it live, obviously. Now I didn't see it live on TV. I was sitting cage side. I wasn't hearing the commentary. I wasn't seeing all the different angles. I didn't think it was that bad in real time. Right? I didn't see it. I will say, when I go back and watch it, the thing that is concerning to me is not, because a lot of people point out, well, he's punching backwards in a rear naked choke. That's dumb. Now, granted, I've commentated from the lowest level of amateurs to, I've commentated every level of the sport, and I've seen a lot of people do that at every level of the sport. So that is not like he's the only guy that's ever done. But I will say this, and again, innocent until proven guilty, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing that stood out to me the most is that there were times where he would battle the hands and he would create space for himself. The choke would be broken, and he wouldn't turn in at all. The hips wouldn't turn, the shoulders wouldn't turn. It's like he did battle the hands a little bit, and then he just stayed there. So I don't think his case looks good, but again, there's still a lot to unfold. But I don't know. I said a lot there, but I want to get your thoughts on it, because if what everybody's saying is true, it is terrible for the sport. But I just feel like I'm seeing all these reports that are acting like this is widespread and rampant, and I just don't believe it is.
Yeah, I mean, could there be more instances of where things have happened 100%? You know, do I feel like you have to look at a card and think that multiple fights on the card are going to be rigged? No, I don't think that's an issue. I think even when we heard it from the fighters this week, I think most fighters, have a certain level of pride that they don't want to go that route. There's still a sense of martial arts, but as another fighter pointed out, if a fighter has a family to provide for, bills to pay for, and they haven't been great, they haven't learned how to do the financial things that the UFC used to put classes on to help train these fighters, and they're not good at it, and somebody's down on their luck, and they look at ways that they could try to make some what they think is quick money with nobody to be able to catch them. I can see where there is the potential, but do I think it's widespread? No, but could I be completely wrong? 100%. I think we've talked about refereeing and judging, especially in the terms where a lot of these judges and refs have worked in the boxing avenue, and boxing has never had a clear history in that aspect as well. So I think there's always been room where people said, oh man, investigate that judge, that ref, this crazy. I guess we just trusted the sanctity of these martial artists that we weren't going to see any of these sort of things. It was just, people would either look at the sport and say, oh, it's like professional wrestling. We dealt with that initially, and it was like, no, it's not professional wrestling, guys. Stop. This is not fake. It's not fake. But then to bring up the whole aspect of, actually fighting a particular way to make an outcome happen, then it was like, wow, I guess maybe I'm naive and never thought that would happen, because I trusted the fact that most martial artists have a sense of pride, or there was just something about their dedication to get themselves to this point that they would never ever do something like that, because it would just shit on everything that they've worked through most of their life to get to this point. So shame on me if I was putting them on too high of a pedestal, but I do believe that most fighters are that way, that they wouldn't want to affect their gym, their families, their reputation, and this fighting career, it's so temporary that your legacy is going to last a lot longer. And if you do something like this, your legacy is screwed for the rest of your life, So I would think most people wouldn't. But in the terms of this particular case, where all these allegations of Bulgarian, and I guess what threw me off was that I went into the fight expecting him to lose anyways. And then I didn't pick him to win. I thought Divide was going to do exactly what he did. What got people fired up was that the fact that the line changed, and Dolgarian was such a favorite, and then it dropped down to where he wasn't as big a favorite. I thought the line was freaking crazy to begin with. I don't know why Dolgarian was that big. If anything else, I was joking the other day to somebody. I was like, well, our staff picks came out, and finally people saw where I picked, and then the line immediately swung the other area. People aren't
the
willing.
Soon-to-be four-time champ, bro. The soon-to-be four-time champ.
I don't know. This one's gonna be tough, but you think about it. I know we've talked about it. We bragged it, and I'm getting off on a tangent now. The last few years or whatever, bro, we're at like 65%. Most gamblers consider if you're near 50%, you're doing pretty darn good. So I was joking. I was like, well, they saw the dog, put his pick, and they were like,
let's go.
These odds guys got it really wrong. But in terms of this one, I see where people, the whole fact of how it was a first round, to lose in a first round for a favorite to lose in a first round is a huge prop bet potential, and I guess that's where people were freaking out. And I get that, I thought it was always going to go that way regardless. But in terms of first round, I wouldn't have been saying, hey, I think it's going to end in the first round, but I did think he was going to lose the fight.
I did too.
So I get it, but, as for how people were talking about how it was handled, like people were like, why did they let the fight going on? I'm sure people say a lot of times about how they get, the FBI gets things about, oh, there's bomb threats or other stuff. In some instances, some things will shut down and they, and usually it doesn't happen. But if somebody says, oh, hey, we got a tip, somebody might try to rob your store, and it's going to be, watch this potential dude. But if they don't do the crime, you can't convict them on anything. So at some point, you got to let we got heads up that something might happen. They asked the fighter, hey, is this true? And the fighter said no. Then all they can do is let it go on and let the guy bury himself if that's the case.
Agreed.
That way they actually have a case that can actually, if they can figure it out and it is true, they can actually convict the dude and they can do what they need to do. So I get it where people are like, I can't believe you let it go on, but they couldn't have arrested him if he didn't do what you think he was going to do.
Exactly.
And then it would have done no better, would have sent no shockwaves through. If anything else, by having him let people do whatever, now people are talking about it. But at this point, it's still allegations. You got the gym coming out saying, like, we didn't do shit. You got the fighter saying we didn't do it. He was trying to fight it. And as for, Chiesa's, oh, you don't do those punches, that's whatever. People fuck up and do stupid shit like that all the time.
Yep.
It just got blown out of proportion because now people are trying to pick at areas at how he didn't defend well. I think Dulgarian's a good fighter. I don't think he's a great fighter. People made it seem like he was the next champion and everything he did, he made this mistake and this mistake. I'm like, guys, it's not like he's like a seasoned vet, that's got like a bazillion fights and he's just running through everybody. I think there's going to be mistakes that happen. But as for Chiesa saying, like, yes, those punches don't do anything, that's true. But, I mean, he was just pointing out how he made a mistake, but then it just kind of, pointed that it was just dumb. But we see it happen all the other time. Do people question every time that somebody now punches out of that choke, they're going to assume that he's fixing the fight or whatever?
Yeah,
that's just silly. Stop pointing at that. That's just silly. But could he have, the fact that if you're really just wanting to fix it and whatever, why put yourself through where you're even trying to defend the choke?
Why wouldn't
you take that first choke and just go out?
And
just go.
I agree
he fought
with
it
that.
multiple times, and some of those we've seen people. And even one of the fights at night, I think Elise Ardeleon. Was it hers or another one? Maybe no. Maybe it was the Brazilian at the beginning. It was pretty much a one-arm choke.
But
then she eventually got her. She was able to get the gable grip. Yeah, she eventually got her. No.
No. Yeah. No, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
But she was a one-arm choke, and then she got the gable grip at the very end, and then was able to secure it. But it wasn't like she had that she needed both arms. So, say you're taking one hand off of that, he still had a strong arm underneath the neck that's cutting oxygen off.
That's true.
He's making bad decisions. So it wasn't like, he cleared the second hand and it was like, okay, cool. It made that pressure less, but it was still pressure, Devai's a big dude, man. He's a big, strong dude. I think that kid has all the capability to be a potential future champ in the future.
I agree.
So I guarantee his one-arm choke was very, very fierce. So I hate the fact that people are nitpicking everything, without giving him any credit, that it was just Dulgarian throwing the fight. That's just disgraceful. Could he have been doing some shady shit? 100%. Sure, he could have. But to completely say that everything was just a bad mistake that he was doing and that, Devai wasn't putting it to him, because he easily could have just went on the first attempt, and just I'm not trying, because people started looking at other fights in the card because people are doing just weird ways of whatever, but everybody's really focused on this one because of the stupid line movement. But I initially went in thinking, and if we would have talked about it and would have looked at the odds beforehand, I would have said on that episode before that the absolute odds were just shit crazy.
I agree.
They should have never been that high for Bulgarian. If anything else, that was a correction. It was a market correction to the fact that they messed up. They sent the odds way too crazy high,
Yep.
So, but do we see bookies getting criticized for, hey, like, why did you set it that high in the first place? Why did you allow this? Unless maybe they got something going on, but nobody's looking at them. They want to look at the fighter and look at other stuff and say, oh, there's no way the line move. That being said, doesn't mean that the kid couldn't have done something. But at this point, it's all allegations. It's all whatever. I just got a little fired up at the fact that people are nitpicking stuff that happens every week, and it can happen multiple times in a fight. Nobody ever pulls perfect fights often when we're watching this game. We're going to watch, 11 fights Saturday, 10 or 11, 12 fights. I forget how many on this card. You think those are all going to be perfect and somebody doesn't do a stupid shit when they're in a fifth fight? Stupid shit's going to happen. And all people are going to say, oh, yeah, that's not how you defend it. Now he's obviously fixing the fight. It's just a slippery slope that they just opened up, and it's just silly.
That's what I don't like. So, by the way, just for the record, the fight that you were referring to was Talita Alencar versus Ariane Carnelosi. That was the women's fight that you were talking about.
I was going to say, I thought it was Alencar. The name kept popping in my head, but I was like,
no, you're spot on.
Let me finish my point because I didn't want to track. But
no, for the record.
It's just crazy, dude.
Well, that's exactly the point that is frustrating me, is that like now everybody's looking at every single fight. Well, first of all, there's two things that frustrate me. Number one, there is a shitload of misinformation going on out there, which is ridiculous, about like how widespread this is and how many people are involved and where the FBI's involvement was and all this. Like it's just not true. And I can tell you this. In being in the mixed martial arts space for a very, very, very long time, this is a very small community, and secrets and high level conspiracy type stuff doesn't happen because everybody talks. Everybody talks, man. Everybody knows everybody, and everybody talks. Now, do I believe that something could have happened here? I do believe something could have happened here. Do I think it's necessarily 100% true? No. I'm anxious to see how this investigation plays out and how we hear everything unfolded. But yeah, exactly what you said is now it's like, oh, yeah. And this referee is in on it, by the way. And, oh, by the way, every single bout, there's been 100 bouts this year that have been impacted by this. It's like, bro, it's not that. It's just not. It's not. And so
until I see the FBI come out with that number, I'm not going to believe any particular number until somebody in some point of authority that's actually part of an investigative branch says something. I mean, what are we doing? We're just going off the words of some manager hears something from somebody else who thinks something's going on or whatever, and then people take it as whatever. But nobody's throwing any names. People are saying stuff's on the record. I'm like, well, throw some names. Let's see how credible these sources are.
Yep.
Let's figure something out, So, if the FBI should come out and say what's going on. I mean, it's just crazy. We haven't heard anything from the Krause thing, but I mean, this administration. I mean, we don't talk politics, but we all know how fucking ridiculous this administration and their team is. So, people used to shit on how bad the FBI was. Well, I guess it hasn't changed much, because if you're doing a major investigation, at least give us some sort of something, or at least tell us that there's an investigation going on. Stop letting all the stuff come from either the UFC president or people that are just hearing things through whoever these sources are that they say are credible, but they won't say who those sources are.
It's that's the thing I guess I want to stress the most, is that first of all, the UFC would absolutely not be complicit in any of this, because you worked for the UFC at the time that they were still Fertitta owned, where like you couldn't even bet on fights. There's just so many things. There's so many limits. There's so many things. Like, the UFC would absolutely not be complicit in this whatsoever, because they understand the importance of, the sport has to be on the up and up for people to take it seriously. As you said, I come from the day when people were still asking, are these real fights? You know what I mean? Isn't this professional wrestling? Like, no, it's not. These are actually real. So trust me, like they're not going to stand by it. But this, like, I guess that's the biggest thing I want to stress, is that I am not dismissing the story as a small story. It is not. It's a big story, and it's a story that needs to be followed, and it's a story that has massive implications and ramifications, and it's a story that matters a lot. But what's frustrating me is how people are just using this and extrapolating it and saying, and every fight's fixed, and there was 10 fights on this card that were fixed, and that card, it's not. It's just simply not the truth. So.
Just because, I mean, you hear from the fighters, now you got them up there, like everybody now is criticizing us and criticizing our fights. And you're getting a lot of, and this is the part that sucks, because when these fighters go and do this sort of shit, they're not just affecting themselves and they're affecting their one fight outcome. They're literally hurting the reputation and they're hurting the livelihood of all their peers that are in this with them, and I feel bad for those guys, because through no fault of their own, they're getting, looks, they're getting side eyes, they're getting, all these questionable things. People are putting these, thoughts on their fights, and it's through nothing of their own doing, and it's kind of just ridiculous. But something I told you to remind me to bring me up that, I guess since we were talking about,
great. This is funny. This is a wild little detail.
Because you were right. When we were part of the UFC, when I was part of the UFC, it was clearly, you were like, you do not bet on fights. You do not do whatever. You weren't even supposed to bet on anything. They just didn't want you gambling, because
right.
There was just this was before even the NFL team got out there, and they were all worried about, the gambling in Vegas. We can't possibly put a team here. But it was also, it was just always like, okay, you can't gamble. You can't gamble, blah, blah, blah. So you didn't think about it. But there have been many, many nights that when I've tried to look to see if there was any live movements or just a reminder to see who was the favorite going into a fight, because I'm not one of the guys, I don't memorize that shit beforehand. I just look at the fighter and I remember what I feel from that fighter, and I have my own internal thoughts, and I use that stuff for when I do my picks. I don't really reference a lot of times the odds things, but I have on occasion done, like, I do search best, I just do MMA odds, and one of the sites that pulls up all the time is like this best MMA odds or whatever.
Right, bestfightodds.com.
So they got great SEO placement. It's like it's one of the first things that always pops up. But the interesting thing is that Wednesday, when I was there for media day, I tried to access that website from within the UFC network, and I got a page that popped up from a Cisco router thing saying this site has been blocked. And the keyword on the page was saying that it was looking for, it said gambling. There was now a filter on their network that you cannot even access a gambling website from within the UFC network.
So interesting.
So this tells me, I guarantee Dana reached out and probably said, even though he's like, we've told all the fighters, Dana's the kind of guy that says, if I go into a press conference and say, you will go to federal fucking prison, in his mind, he thinks he's telling every fighter that. If I doubt the UFC, I should have asked the fighters if they've actually, I meant to, and I kind of got sidetracked, or just forgot that I should have asked this. Did that in fact happen? Did Dana actually say something to you guys? I guarantee Dana's like, well, you've seen the press conferences, you've all seen it, whatever. Well, that's Dana's way of saying he's told all the fighters.
Well,
but
and let me just say real quick, it's in the contractual language, but I can tell you this right now, as somebody that is now on the administrative side of things. If you think a fighter signs a contract by reading every single word of that contract, you are absolutely mistaken. You are absolutely mistaken. Yeah. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, you think, like, because now, like, I don't do it all the time. We have matchmakers and stuff, but sometimes it's like, hey, John, these two guys agreed. I'm on the road right now. Can you send this contract out or whatever? Like, yeah. And you send out a contract and like it's signed in like 30 seconds or something. Like, okay, so you didn't read any of it. You know what I mean? Like, come on.
I think I just deleted the screenshot, too, because I was going to try to pull it up to give you the exact wording. And I literally just went through a weird thing before we started recording. I was like, look at all these screenshots on my desktop. So I literally just deleted it probably right before we taped. But what that tells me is that I guarantee Dana sat down with his staff and the employees and again, reminded people, if you were involved in any of this shit, you will be terminated. You will do whatever. But I guarantee he told his network and said, or his IT guys, and like, people are going to be looking. Let's do what we need to do to make it to where people can't even get to these sites.
Which now
we don't,
Which, by the way,
and I think now Dana will say, "Oh, it's blocked. You can't even get to the gambling sites from our network." That was not always the case,
right?
But it is certainly the case as of this week.
Well, but it's interesting. Like, so, I mean, if you and I are sitting at the Apex and we pull out our phones and type in best fight odds and we're not attached to the network, like, of course we're going to be able to find it because we're not on their network. But it is interesting, right, that somebody said, you know what, we need to make sure that at least if you're tapped into our network, if you're using our Wi-Fi, you're not getting access to any gambling sites. It is interesting. It's, I mean, even if it's just a little footnote or irrelevant or whatever, it is still very interesting.
It is. I'm just glad they haven't block Stream East, while we're there, so we can still
Wow.
watch all the football games.
Wow.
You can watch those football games, those college games. I know now I'm saying it. Now it's going to get blocked.
Wow.
Jeez. Great job,
Well,
Kenny.
but
it is kind of interesting. But I guess that's the thing that they never thought. It was probably a problem they never thought that they would have to address because it wasn't an issue. It wasn't being whatever. Could it have existed before and there was an issue? Of course.
Well,
but now, when somebody gets caught doing some stuff, so now they have to do housekeeping and say, where have we been slacking? Can our employees pull up and look at gambling odds? Can they do whatever? Do we need to do more to, make it harder for them to do this sort of stuff? So somebody's taking the step, and I guess if anything else, you say good job.
Yeah.
For at least trying to be at least proactive now, to get ahead of something else. It could be a little too late, but it's not like the fighters are on there browsing the network or the internet during the fight week and stuff.
Well,
but it definitely certainly seems like a quick reaction to what's going on, that they said, what do we need to do back here at the HQ?
It's not a coincidence that it happened this week that all of a sudden you can no longer. Now here's the big question though. All right, so you pulled up because you were looking for the odds. It was blocked. But my question is, how did you have time to pull up a website when you're working a media day by yourself, bro?
Yeah. It didn't help that they built in a hour and a half break that didn't end up being that way, but they had a fighter scheduled for 12 and the next one's 1:30. I remember I saw that after the fact and I forgot to gripe about that. I was like, but then there was a part I was like, if it wasn't for those little breaks, it would have been a little bit tougher. It didn't end up turning out to be an hour and a half because the guys came early. But yes, to your point, where are you at, media in town? Where are you guys at? It was a solo media day.
I did not get to watch it live because I was traveling and I was doing some things here. But I always, when the recordings come in, because obviously I'm still on the media list, and so they'll send the recordings. And, for my own curiosity and also because I know we're going to talk about it, I'll watch the media recordings. If I don't get to watch your live stream, I'll at least watch them back so I can get caught up. And I was watching them today while I was doing some work and, getting caught up on some things. And I'm like, oh, Kenny's doing a good job. Oh, good question. Well, solid there. Nice work. And then I was like, wait a minute. He's the only one asking questions. There's nobody else even there. Cold coffee, solo mission. And I'm just going to say it. Mixed Martial Arts Journalist of the Year. Mixed Martial Arts Journalist of the Year. I'm just saying, Journalist of the Year. I mean, if you're pulling solo duty on a media day, Journalist of the Year, bro.
Right?
Journalist of the Year.
Right? It's funny. I thought about that. I was like, I should ask them for a landline. I was like the other day when my internet got a little wonky on the whatever, I was like, I wonder if I can just like pull a favor and be like, hey, how I kind of help you on those media days? Can I get a landline up here?
Can I run one Ethernet cable out here? Just one.
Right here to my spot.
Just one. Not to a router. Not to anything that disseminates wireless.
Is that too much? I literally was just thinking about that today. Wow. I was like, I wonder if I could ask that.
Okay, you know what's funny?
It certainly doesn't hurt to ask.
Well, you know what's funny?
They can easily say, no, it's not possible because of the way that room's set up.
Cold coffee.
But I was like, I think I'm going to ask.
But do you remember when we toured that facility while it was still being built?
Oh, yeah.
There's like cable runs all under the floor. There's cable because there's cable runs because that building. If anybody doesn't, I'm sure it's been many years at this point, but so a lot of people might not remember that the UFC Apex was previously a big place called Scientific Games, which was a place where they built slot machines and video poker machines and that sort of thing. And when they bought the facility, as they were remodeling it, we got to tour it as they were building it. And I remember, because I'll never forget, because one of the first things that I did is walked in where the media room was going to be, and I'm like, look at all these Ethernet cables. This is amazing. We're going to have hard lines everywhere. And they were like, no, those aren't ours. Like, they're pulling those out. But that means the cable run is already there. So you know what? I mean, now this is some very inside baseball stuff, but a hard line would be incredibly nice there. And you know what? I'm telling you,
you
should make a private request.
When people are like, especially when people are like, oh, sometimes the audio gets out of sync, sometimes it's buffering. I'm like, I'm just trying to provide a service to my viewers. But I joked about that. I was laughing about that. I was like, I wonder if I've earned it to where I can ask for that. We'll see. But we'll see. But yes, it was a solo day. But I did feel, and I thank you very much for listening and watching. But dude, it felt pretty good.
I thought you did a great job, bro.
It felt like I got in a good little routine. And I have to credit the fighters as well because like if a fighter's in a bad mood and if you're not getting anything, it easily could shut an interviewer down, and then you just feel like you're like whatever. But once we started getting going, I just felt like we was just like having conversations with dude, because at some point I could have got there, and I think I talked with you after a little bit, about because I felt good after, and I was like, at the end of the day, I'm grateful for what we get to do. I probably, maybe if I was a little bit more beat down and we had like 12 interviews, and then maybe if I felt like that was rough, I wouldn't have been so grateful. But afterwards, you get through it. And then I was like, "Whoa, that felt really good." You get that sense of self-accomplishment,
Yeah.
But at the point when you get there, and I look around, I'm like, "Shit, there's nobody else here." You could either shut down and be like, "Well, I'm grumpy, I'm mad, I'm going to be whatever," or you just buck up and you just do your thing, and then just work through it, And I'm not a kind of guy that I spend days researching this. So that morning, like I got up early and was like taking notes and did shit for like maybe 2.5 hours, a few hours before. So I went in. I had some questions. I knew I had at least a little bit of a form I was going to get through. But then it's just a matter of just listening, and then following up and then making it a conversation. And the fighters, I got to give them credit too, because they were open and allowed me to do that, and then just had a good time. And then by the end, I was like, hey, today felt pretty good. Six is a good number. 6 is a lot better than 12 interviews, because then by the end of 12, my brain's fried. But it felt pretty good. But there were some people that I don't remember really ever having like that in-depth of a conversation with, that I felt like I left with a sense of like, I really like this fighter.
Yep.
I didn't know much about him before, but I was like, I really like this fighter now, so... but yeah, it was good. I mean, it wasn't ideal, but at the end of the day, it's just another thing that you could say that you've done and that you've gotten through it. And then it makes me look forward to like New York, when I know there's going to be a bazillion media people. And then I'm like, bro, I'm just going to sit my ass and shoot and edit, But no, I mean, this fight, it was good. It was good, Again, it's another Apex card, so everybody wants to shit on it regardless. But there's some really good fights, and there's some good people. At the end of the day, we've said it before. The fights, you never know what's going to be a great fight. But when you look at the fighters, usually, they're going to go out there and they're going to give you effort, and we're always rewarded by it usually. When you look at this card, there's not a ton of like top-ranked fighters. A lot of them, just looking at the Tapology rankings, I mean, it's just not there.
Right.
So you got fighters that want to talk and want to get their name out there and want to do whatever, and they're really happy that they're getting a chance. And some are like, dude, I've worked for this. I love this. I love every moment, even just getting to talk to you. And I wanted to joke, like, oh, you meant if like there was a real reporter here, But they're like, I love this.
Journalist
I love that I'm sitting here chatting with
Journalist
you.
Journalist of the year, bro. Journalist of the year. That's all I'm saying. No, but no, I mean, obviously we joke, but I mean, man, you and I have been doing a podcast for over 10 years together now. And like, honestly, your growth from just like a shooter to an actual interviewer, man. Like, I really did. I really enjoyed the discussion with Randy Brown. I really enjoyed the discussion with Matt Schnell as well. Was good too. Yeah,
Schnell was good too. I thought so.
I thought it was amazing.
Chris
man.
Padilla was probably one of my favorite ones. He was one that was like, I don't really know anything about this cat, but dude, he brought such fun energy that I was just like, I'm really enjoying them. Then we went off on a tangent talking about pro wrestling, and he was chatting. And that's the shit where there's always some fucking troll on YouTube. He was talking about how he got into fighting, but like his mom had him watching like professional wrestling when he was a kid. Then he just got really into it, and then he started doing whatever. So I started asking follow up about like his mom and like her, like, does she have a favorite fighter? Blah blah blah. Because he was loving, he was getting into it. There was one motherfucker who was like, MMA media asking about his mom's favorite wrestler. I was like, did you not listen to the fucking conversation? Like, the conversation skewed that way, and he was talking about how his mom got him into it, and then he had a great answer about it. And I was like, you just can't please everybody. But I remember thinking, like, it was like a fun interview. But yeah, a lot of the other guys, like you said, Randy Brown sometimes can be standoffish, and you don't know what you're going to get sometimes. Just depends on this mood, and because somebody can ask a question, and this can be any fighter. It's not just Rick Brown. Somebody can ask a question, and then they just shut you down, and then the rest of the answers are like whatever. But I thought everybody kind of got into a good flow, and if anything, I think just the hardest ones were obviously ones that goes through translation.
It's tougher. It's just tougher.
There's a buffer.
Yep.
There's a and that's on me. I need to learn Portuguese. Then maybe I can get in that flow with them or something. But even those I thought were decent. But
no, I thought you did good.
But yeah, I thought it was good.
And you know what I think too, and I think this is and I know it from experience. Like I know it firsthand. A lot of the writers and a lot of the interviewers are going in there and they're thinking about what headline they need to get, what quote they need to get for their clickbait. And I shouldn't even say clickbait. That's wrong. I hate that word. But you know what I mean? Like they need their clicks. They need their clip. And I think that's probably what I did enjoy about it is I thought a lot of your flow was just kind of conversations. I mean, obviously you did bring up the scandal just to get everybody's thoughts on it, but that's fair. That's the biggest topic, and so you want to get everybody's thoughts on it.
Because I figured on that, and the reason on that, because I could see where somebody would be like, oh, you were trying to get something clicky, you're trying to whatever. You could hear me talk about what I think about the allegation. You could ask what John Morgan thinks about allegation. Right. You could ask so-and-so about their allegations. But does that all even matter? At the end of the day, how about we ask the fighters what they think?
Yep.
Do they think that there's an issue? Do they think there's a problem? At least they're a little bit more credible or held a lot closer to this than me. And that's what my thinking was like, let me get their thoughts on it. We can talk about it, where I know we're going to talk about it, and everybody else is going to talk about it. But has anybody asked a fighter what they think about it? I'm not asking the fighter, has anybody approached you? I didn't want to, because even Dana made a point like, hey, thank you, everybody that's starting to go on social media and say that you were approached, because now you're going to be approached by the FBI and you're going to start doing whatever. If that has happened and you want to talk, you should talk, and there was something I was thinking about the other day that I was going to even throw out. I'll finish the point, is that wasn't not why I was there. I wanted to get their thoughts on it, but I didn't want to start asking everybody. I'm not trying to get anybody to incriminate their things. I just want your thoughts on it because you're hell of a lot closer to the situation than me, is why I felt like it was important. And I felt if I didn't ask it, people would either shit on me for not even bringing it up. Yep. But I felt like I wanted to give them a platform to talk about it and then just sort of drop it or whatever. So the thing I was thinking about, people say like, oh, well, people haven't been approached or people don't do whatever. Oh, yada, yada, yada. I know a lot of media and people are reached out to and talked to by bookies and other people asking for information about a fighter's health and wealth.
Yep.
And I never even thought about the fact that some of these people could probably be getting paid by these bookies, either rewarded with gifts or monies. So if you're the type out there saying, oh, fighters, if you're being approached, you need to go say something. Hey, reporters, if you're being approached by a bookie asking you for tips for money or whatever, you should be talking to people as well. Because if you don't, you're part of the problem as well.
Boy, that's a great point.
So I will put that out there.
That's a great point.
I know. That popped in my head the other day. I was like, holy shit, I never really thought about that. Because I hear people all the time saying like, oh, some bookie was asking me about blah, 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 how so-and-so looks on fight week. I'm always just like, haven't watched the fucking video. But if you're at the point where you have connections with teams and you're all buddy, which is already like, a razor's edge of what you should be handling yourself, which is why we've always, we will always be cordial. If friendships happen throughout the years, it is what it is. But I will never try to put myself into a camp. I will never put myself in a position to where I cannot step away and be like, sorry, whatever. So if you are one of these people that you are in close and now you're being approached by people asking about the dirt or the inside knowledge of a team and you are providing it, you, sir, are part of the problem. So think about that,
there's so much little gray area and little odd relationships. Yeah. So to act like, oh my God, I can't believe
like, oh, it's
this.
Just the fighters. How dare the fighter do like whatever. Bro, if you're part of the problem where odds are switching and changing because some piece of information that you could have did, this is why these people are getting in trouble.
Yep.
Think about it.
Man, it's a great
And
point.
maybe use that as a notion to stop doing that sort of thing. And especially if you're doing it for money. I'm the dumbass. If somebody reached out to me like, hey, what are your thoughts on a fight? I'll give you my thoughts, but I'm not giving like insider information. It's just me telling you my staff picks or whatever. But if you have knowledge that is not public information and you are using it for somebody's benefit, you're part of the problem, bro.
Yeah.
You're part of the problem.
So true.
So just
So
put
true.
that out there for, I don't think, but that's for people that are close and tight or whatever. Most of our listeners are just hardcore tight with us. I don't know if they're in fight camps with other these people, but that is something, and nobody's talking about that sort of shit.
That's a good point.
I heard some people say, talk about other little stuff, but, I guarantee a lot of these MMA media that are buddy with people, if they have close connections with bookies, those are people I would talk to and say, hey, make sure you're not doing these things. So.
Solid point. Well, listen, I thought you crushed on me today.
I appreciate that. It felt good, and that's the kind of thing that just goes forward. We've had to do them before, and it's just the stuff that just you feel good that you can, that you can do it. It's not that I'm saying I want them all to be like that, but
Journalist of the year. Journalist of the year.
Ariel, watch out.
I'm telling you, at least get this man a nomination. Get this man a nomination, bro. He's doing as much work as anybody out there. All right, listen. All right, so I will not be at the UFC event because I was trying to get back, but the flights to get back in time were way too expensive. So I'm gonna have to watch it from the air. So I will not be there, but that is because Friday night, CFFC 148, myself and Dean Thomas on the mic. So if you're hanging out on Friday night, you're looking for something to watch, tune into UFC Fight Pass. Prelims on OnlyFans at 7:15 p.m. Eastern. Main card, UFC Fight Pass, 9 p.m. Eastern. Anthony Garcia was back. The heavyweight champ is back. Had a rough go at Dana White's Contender Series. Has changed everything in the time since. Has really just revamped his training and his approach and his mental side and everything. He's facing Larry Gonzalez in the main event. Pair of undefeated welterweights in the co-main event. Ito Babalaidze against Kyle Hill. Ito fought a lot of his early career here at CFFC. He went
Say that 3 times.
I'm telling you, you just have to say it with confidence and pray that you're getting it right. That's it. But I can tell you.
Just make a choice and just run through it.
It's very easy. Repeat after me. Kyle Hill. Kyle Hill. No, I'm just saying. No, obviously Ito's name.
Ito Babalaidze?
Yeah, Ito's a little bit tough name, but 2 undefeated welterweights. Ito fought for us at CFFC as an amateur, and then his pro debut as well. And he went off to PFL. Had a couple fights there. Didn't get a long-term deal, so now he's back. But it's 5-0 versus 5-0 in the co-main event at welterweight. That's good. Couple of veterans at middleweight. Maxim Sergeev is back against Shane Sadowski. A couple of vets going at it. Sean Stant and York Anderson. York Anderson did miss weight today. Sean Stant took the fight anyway. A couple undefeated featherweights there. Bill Lewis and Cody Porter.
How far off was he?
He was 149 actually. So he was now and I will say he actually spoke to me directly and apologized. He did step in. Sean lost his opponent. York stepped in on a little bit less than 2 weeks' notice. So he was like,
that's tough.
He was like, listen,
That's
man.
tough.
He's like, it's the first time. He was emphatic. He's like, this is the first time I've ever missed weight. I'm so sorry. He's like, it won't happen again. Short notice. So
yeah. That's certainly. You got to give that some. Definitely part of the fault right there. It wasn't like the kid had a full fight camp to prepare for it.
No. It was a little bit less than 2 weeks. So, obviously we always say making weight is job number one. He didn't. But again, short notice. But anyway, him and Sean Stant, so 2 undefeated guys there early in their career. Bill Lewis and Cody Porter looks like a fantastic one. And then Jose Rodriguez and Eamon Hardy at 165-pound bout, and that's a catchweight simply because it was also put together on short notice. So anyway, great lineup. Dean Thomas with me. Looking forward to that. So that's your Friday night. Tune in with me and Dean Thomas Saturday.
That's a good pairing. Dean does a really good job over there.
Dean's awesome,
man.
I've
enjoyed those ones.
So blessed the people I get to work with, man. Obviously, it's really funny last week because the broadcast, the analyst desk last week at the UFC event was Dean Thomas, Michael Chiesa, and Michelle Watterson, who were like my 3 co-hosts other than CM Punk. So it was my 3 co-hosts, and meanwhile CM Punk was winning the world title. So I was like, come on, man.
How about that? How about that?
That was amazing, man. So I'm so blessed I'm so blessed.
I didn't watch the match. I just saw the results. I was like, that's crazy.
I was so happy. And did you see the images where he actually walked out with The monogram
I
Duke.
did.
That was awesome.
Duke, yeah, that's cool.
That was
No, I
so
did
cool,
see
man.
that.
So
I
was
did
so
see
happy
that.
for him.
Yeah.
So, awesome stuff, man. But I'm like I said, I'm just blessed with the people I get to work with, man. It's awesome. So anyway, I'll take care of you Friday night. Cold Coffee will take care of you Saturday night. And then we'll all get back together next week and talk all about it. So late here on the East Coast, Cold Coffee, I appreciate you sticking around. Appreciate everybody for the support as always. And we'll let everybody get off to it. But most importantly, thanks for listening.